Ladies and gentlemen, please silence all cell phones. The program will begin now. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome General Manager of Chase Inc., Jeff Hoffman.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Woohoo, that's much better, much better. I'm Jeff Hoffman. I'm the general manager of the Inc. business at Chase, and it's a real honor for us to be here today. I can't imagine that this crowd is just absolutely fantastic. 7 a.m. in Las Vegas, nonetheless. You guys really brought it, and talk about work hard, play hard. You guys really embody that. Raise a hands. Who participated in the Top Golf event last night? Yeah, pretty good turnout. I thought it was an awesome event, and hopefully some of you guys got to swing by the VIP lounge that Chase hosted and got to get some photos with Tony Hawk as well. This is the first time that we've been at the AICPA event, and so it's been a really great opportunity for us to get to meet a lot of you guys. And it's really an important event for us because we know how important it is for you guys to be interacting with small businesses to really help them seize business opportunities. And that's one of the things that we're really focused on from the Inc. Card business. And we launched a new product recently in the last couple weeks called Inc. Business Unlimited that was really designed by business owners, many like yourselves, where business owners were telling us we really needed to help them eliminate distractions from their everyday lives so that they could focus on what was most important to them, which is running their business. Today, we are bringing you Tony Hawk. He's obviously a legendary skater, obviously an awesome entrepreneur, as well as a philanthropist. I've listened to Tony speak on a number of occasions. I can guarantee you a couple things. One, you're gonna walk out of here really inspired. Secondly, you're definitely gonna pick up some tidbits and things that you can take back to your respective jobs to make your businesses that much more productive as well. So let's jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce Tony Hawk.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Thanks for joining us here in Las Vegas, 7 a.m. I assume this is the after party, right? We've just come straight from the clubs to here, so we're going to start raging. I just want to thank you for having me here. And some of you might have heard me speak a few weeks ago. I was in New York doing collaboration with Chase Inc. there, and I was talking about my career and small businesses and things like that. Today, I'm going to try to focus a little more on productivity, which is the theme here, and something that I hope that I'm good at or familiar with. But it's great to be here in Vegas with thousands that are attending the AICPA Engage conference. And if you saw my Facebook live chat a few weeks ago, I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. So let's see, productivity. I learned early on as a skateboarder, growing up as a skateboarder, basically that was my priority. I was a kid and everything was secondary to skateboarding. And I spent all my time at the skate park. Pretty much I found which bus route from my school went closest to the skate park, and I took that bus. And then I was there until they would close about 10 at night when my dad would come pick me up. So I never really had to schedule myself very much. Obviously, I was a teenager. I thought I was invincible with what I was doing. And so I didn't worry too much about the other obligations that would soon come with being a professional skateboarder. But I did learn through having more obligations as an adult, children, that I did have to schedule my time better because I wanted to be present for them. And I would have to find these windows in the day to go actually ride my skateboard, which was very foreign to me because, like I said, I just did it when I felt like it. And I found that because I only had these brief windows of time, that I was more productive that way because I had to fit in getting better during that time frame. And it actually worked. It worked a lot better. And there's sort of this added pressure that you have this looming deadline. For me, it was this 2-hour window, and I want to learn something new in that time frame, and it really pushed me to do so. And I feel like I was far more productive in those days, especially when my children were young, with my skating. So during that shift, I realized that I was more efficient. And around that time, sorry, I'm bouncing around on my notes here. Around that time, as I was sort of, my pro skating career waned a bit when I was in my early 20s, mostly because skateboarding kind of died in popularity. Skating was the big trend in the late 80s. It was the cool fashion, it was the hairdos, it was, it was neon, it was punk, and that was very short-lived. And suddenly I found myself with 2 mortgages, 1 child, and an income that was dropping by half every month. And I'm not kidding when I say that. It was a very lean time. I ate a lot of Taco Bell, a lot of Top Ramen, and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I decided to start a skateboard company, which seems like the dumbest idea. Luckily I didn't have an accountant to tell me that this was the worst idea. And so I decided to take the equity out of my house and to actually start a skateboard brand, because I thought skating had been cyclical in the past and we were at a low point, and I knew that it would take the least amount of capital for us to become recognized as a skate brand during that time, because it didn't take a whole lot. To get a team together, to get good space and advertising and magazines, it was relatively cheap. And I felt like if skateboarding comes back, which I was betting everything on, that we would be riding high on that wave, because we would have already established ourselves as one of the best brands. That happened eventually, but like I said, there were some very, very lean years during that time when my partner, who I started the brand with, who was also an ex-pro skater, he and I had some pretty heavy discussions about giving up. He had limited experience in accounting, so luckily he decided to stick with me. And eventually it did turn around. But I did learn in those years that I needed to focus on what I was good at. And that helped Birdhouse be more productive as well. At first, it was just he and I doing everything. And the creative direction, the team, everything was bestowed on me. So I was doing all of our videos, which I thought at the time was our best marketing tool. So I was making a video every 6 months of our team, which in hindsight was a little excessive. It was like we were forcing it on people, and they were not the best quality videos. I had 2 SVHS decks that I was editing with, so there was just 1 generation each time I was making more edits. And I was doing the advertising. I was at one point calling shops, trying to do sales, and realized very quickly that I was better as a skater than I was as a creative director. And one of our skaters, Jeremy Klein, was actually a really good artist, and he offered to take over. And I reluctantly gave him the reins, but I realized very quickly that he was much better suited at that. I wasn't very good at it, and that I needed to stick with what I know and my expertise. And I learned early on, right then, that I needed to surround myself with people that have the same passions, but also have better expertise in other fields. And that shift really is, that combined with skateboarding starting to come into fashion again, that's what changed our whole direction. That's what brought us into being profitable for the first time. And so what I learned right then was that I'm better at what I do, that is in terms of skateboarding and public relations, instead of being behind the desk and trying to churn out ads and videos. And it helped Birdhouse to be more productive, and it helped me realize that I have to rely on a team. And if anything, that is the lesson that I've taken with me through all of these years of doing skateboard companies and doing small businesses, is that I have to rely on a team of people that have the same sense of values, have the same aesthetics, but are very good at what they do. I also learned that just because I had a successful business doesn't mean that everything I do would be successful. And the best example of that is that my partner and I decided that we knew a fashion designer who was getting a lot of traction. He had some really cool denim designs. This is before people were paying $200 for their jeans. And we decided that we wanted to support him and to start selling his product in specialty stores. Fast forward about 3 or 4 years, his stuff started to take off. We had no idea of the cost that would incur with trying to build that brand. And suddenly all of the profits of our building, we had a distribution model as well, all of our profits were being eaten up by this high-end denim brand, the $200 jeans. And I realized the hardest way that I couldn't just get into any field that I wasn't familiar with, and nor can my partner. So we struggled with that for a couple years and tried to keep it afloat, and finally sold it for what we owed the bank. And it was a hard lesson, and lucky we got out of it. But at the same time, I realized that I can't be productive in a field that I don't know a lot about, and it wasn't something that I could necessarily learn that quickly, nor did I want to. So I don't like using the cliches like stay in your lane, but really I'd say stay with your expertise and follow your passion, and don't just get into something because it seems like it's going to be profitable or because it's like just a cool idea. You have to really believe in it, and you have to follow through with it. And I wasn't willing to do that. But at least I got some free jeans through the years. And especially nowadays, the hardest thing with being productive is eliminating distraction. With the speed of information and all the endless means of accessing it, it's hard to focus on one thing, or to remove those distractions that keep coming at you when your phone's dinging and the news cycle is ridiculous every single day. But I think the best thing to do is, as easy as it sounds, is just to shut it off and say, this is my time to do these things, to do stuff for my business, to do stuff for my career. And I like to try to make those times available, especially with my family. So I know that in these hours, I have to get stuff done. My kids are at school. When they get out of school, I want to be present for them. And some people would call that being productive or being prioritizing your time, and I just call it being present for my kids, because I want them to see me and actually talk to me instead of them just seeing me looking at my phone. And that's a tough transition to make. And I've had, luckily I've had many children, so I've learned through all of them how to be the best. So the newest children are getting the most of my time. No. I'm still trying to make up for it. Another help that I've had through the years is my sister, who's my business partner. She came from the entertainment industry, and so she actually used to be a backup singer. I'm pretty sure she's performed here a couple times. She played with Michael Bolton. She played with Pet Shop Boys. She played with John Denver. I'm so dating her. I was a little kid seeing those shows. I wasn't an adult. But she had children, and she wanted to stay home, and she realized that what I was doing was shifting more into entertainment than it was just sports or skateboarding itself, or X Games even. I was starting to do bigger exhibitions, bigger venues, and suddenly she realized that her expertise could really help with her experience of touring and doing things like that. So we came up with an idea that seemed grandiose, not impossible, but definitely something that was way out of our league. And we decided to do a tour that would combine the best of what I consider action sports: BMX, skateboarding, and motocross riding. And up to that point, the only time you saw those sports together was in a big competition like the X Games, or it was the sideshow to a bigger concert tour like the Warped Tour. So our sports were in the parking lot. We were or we were the halftime entertainment at a football game. And I thought, our sports have come far enough that we could be the center, we could be the headliner of a big tour. And so I literally drew out a sketch of how a ramp system would work, incorporating all those sports, and how it would fill an arena floor. And that was it. I had a sketch and a dream. And I started talking to people who were familiar with doing tours, because I partnered up with a band manager that knew how to do arena tours, and he brought in his crew that do big concert tours. And then I met with a real accountant who does that kind of stuff, and we started telling him our ideas, and he listened intently, and then he was talking, mostly he was concerned with the timeline, because we were talking about, we were, I think, in spring, and we were hoping to do this by summer, fall, and I remember him just kept saying, "What's your money? What's your money?" I said, "Yeah, what does that mean? I understand that." He's like, you're not even you're already past pre-sale. You don't have your whole setup built. This tour won't be profitable. It won't work." And he's like, "But it's your money." and I realized slowly that he was literally talking about me losing millions of dollars in the first 6 months. And he came up with the idea, and I was thankful to have listened. I was pretty stubborn. I was really intent on doing this tour, so I didn't want to listen to him. And I remember thinking, like, I hate this guy. I do not like. He's kind of a dick. He won't listen to what I'm saying. He's not fulfilling my dreams. And like, who brought him? But eventually I came to very much respect his opinion, and I was thankful that he pushed it on me, because we decided to push the whole tour back and do one test show. So we got the ramps built. I wrote a check for $1 million, which was the first time I'd done that, and my hand was shaking. And we had the ramps built. I knew no matter what, at least we had the best ramps in the world. And to this day, the ramp was built in 2002. To this day, that's the ramp that I skate almost every day of my life. It's still the best one in existence. So it was definitely worth the money. But we decided to do this tour where we're going to do one test show, and we actually did it here in Vegas. And we did it in the, we pushed the whole tour back a year. We did it in the winter of the following year, and we had plenty of time to promote. We had plenty of time to sell tickets. And it actually worked, and that was my first hard lesson with CPAs. And thank you to all of you for your opinion and for your valuable input. Let's see, where am I? I do have an accountant at my office. Her name is Sandy. And she hears all my crazy ideas. Some are not as large as Huck Jam, but some are very expensive. And I call her the fun police. I call her the fun police in jest, but I know I could see her, sometimes I can see her face changing as I start to talk about something, and she's thinking about the costs and the liabilities, and then we always figure out a way to do it, though. So I'm very thankful that she's there to give me a voice of reason, and that I've been able to surround myself with people that I trust in that sense, including accountants. And so, I know I'm in a room full of accountants, and you would all agree with her on all the things that we talk about. And that's hugely important. So thank you for doing so and for keeping us in check. She also helps me to estimate taxes, which is something I never thought I would have to worry about. But most of my income is licensing, and it's 1099. And so I have to account for that very early on, and that's always a harsh reality in April. So Sandy is my accountant. She is frugal, but with good reason. She's very supportive to an extent, and she's open to new ideas, and a lot of times, no matter how outlandish they sound, and she figures out a way to make them a reality. The lessons that I've learned over the years, I think, is that staying productive is what has kept me in the game. I've been a professional skateboarder for over 35 years. I'm super old, and it's still the most fun I can have. It's still what drives all these other businesses, is that I still walk the walk. I'm really thankful that I get to do this for a living. I mean, it is really a dream come true, but in a lot of ways, the things that we're doing and the things that we've been able to accomplish, because I have a great team around me, are things that I never dreamed of, because this didn't exist when I was a kid growing up. The only thing you could aspire to be a skateboarder was to get free gear or get your picture in the magazine. And when you reach the age of responsibility, you got to get a job, because skateboarding is not paying your bills ever. So this was not a dream, that we had. And so now we're just sort of creating the dream as we go. And a lot of times just making it up as I go along. But that's a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy the challenges. And I think that through my skateboarding, I learned that I enjoy constantly challenging myself. And that is the greatest buzz I get from riding a skateboard, is doing something new. Even if it's already been done before, the fact that I've sort of believed in myself and that I've been able to do it in a lot of ways, something that people consider impossible. That's the greatest buzz, and that's the sort of high I go for. And the same goes for business. A lot of these businesses that we've created seemed very quirky, seemed almost impossible to stay profitable, but we made them work. For instance, my skateboard company that I started, Birdhouse, we've been on the map for 25 years. And in the frugal world of the skate industry, that's almost unheard of. Most companies have a good run. They have sort of flavor of the month sort of vibe, maybe for a year or two, and then they're gone. And we've managed to stay profitable by doing different licensing deals, for doing like other toys, doing other promotions, partnering up with bigger companies, and that's what funds my pro skate team, because their royalties alone from the skateboards we sell, it does not pay their salary, which is this sort of sad irony to having a skate brand. The most emphasis is put on your skateboard sponsor, but it is not the one that brings you the money. The big money is in the shoe sponsors, the clothing sponsors, the energy drinks. But at its core, the skate brand is what defines you. And I play the game, what can I say? And I figure out ways to actually make that work for my team. One example of that is we do skateboards that are more entry level. They're a little bit cheaper. They're sold more at box stores. And I'm proud of the skateboards we've created because they're $30 to $40 entry level skateboards, but they work. And I had to fight with bigger companies to make that happen, because it was like, well, we make the Hot Wheels skateboard. Yeah, but the wheels don't roll. Yeah, but who cares? We sell for $20. I said, but we can make one with the wheels that roll and, with an actual kicktail and sell that for $30. No, can't. 30, forget it. No way. We're not selling a $30 skateboard. That's too much. But I had to fight for that, and eventually won out, and that has done really well. And I use those royalties to fund my Birdhouse skate team. And it's great because those skateboards do not have the Birdhouse name on them, so they're not considered, we're not selling out, so to speak. They have my name on them, and I've already been considered a sellout, so I'm good. I was one of the first skaters to have sort of big corporate sponsors, and I definitely caught a lot of flack for that. But luckily, my experience growing up as a skateboarder prepared me for that, because when I was a kid in the late 70s, being a skateboarder was the most uncool thing you could do. It really was. It was like we were the lowest on the totem pole. There was, nerds, there was jocks and then nerds and then skaters. And so I got used to being ridiculed for what I loved doing. And then when I started skating, my style was considered really strange, and I was really lanky, I was little, so I learned a sort of different technique to doing aerials, and they thought that it was this sort of cheating method. And so I got a lot of ridicule. I was in an outcast sport, and then I was an outcast in an outcast sport. So that prepared me for hate of all kinds. And back then we called it being picked on. Now we know it's called bullying, but back then it was like just you got to buck up and deal with it. And I feel like that did prepare me for the onslaught of sort of cries of sellout, and eventually social media, which is definitely just a flood of negativity in a lot of ways. But when I read the mean comments or the ridiculous things that are written about me, I think, you're hiding behind an anonymous Twitter account. These people used to say this to my face. Like, you're not getting to me with this. But all along, the main thread of what I do is being productive, and I don't let those people, those naysaying, affect me, and I move on with what I believe in, and truly, what I believe is that if you're doing what you love, if you're doing what you love for a living, That's the definition of success. I've had crazy, financial ups and downs and highs and lows, but all along, I just skated, and that's what I enjoyed. And so I now skate for a living still I'm 50. I still skate for a living, and I would do it any day of the week for free, just like I did when I was 14. And now I get paid more money than I ever would imagine to skateboard. Now I get paid more money than I would ever imagine to speak about skateboarding in front of a room full of accountants. I'm proud of that. It's a blast, and I really do enjoy it, and I hope that what you do, that you will love what you do as well, and that it is your passion. And I'm thankful for all of you. I couldn't do it, but we definitely need you there on our side. I think that's about it for me. We're going to do a Q&A here. Sorry, I didn't know how to wrap that up because my notes are really terrible, so I didn't have a good out. But I think, surround yourself with people that have the same passions and do what you love. That's pretty much it. That's what I tell my kids, too. So if they're listening, if they're watching my Facebook Live, kids, follow your passion. And thank you.
So Tony, I'll kick us off with a little Q&A. You guys can fire away questions. I have my iPad here and can ask Tony questions on the fly as well. I'm going to be a little selfish though, Tony, taking the little opportunity being in the chair here. One of the things that I've always just been really impressed with you growing up was, like we were talking last night, just like this dogged determination that you had to really master a trick. And just how does that kind of fit into your success as an entrepreneur, just this dogged determination that you have instilled in yourself?
I think it translates into seeing something through, especially with a company or with an idea, that if I get discouraged at all, I'm not going to give up. And the perfect example of that is living through the lean years of skateboarding while owning a company and raising a family, and I wasn't about to give up on that dream, and that I think that determination on my skateboard transcended what I was doing with the company.
It's awesome. I jotted down a couple of notes as you were talking. You were talking as you build out a team, the importance of value, aesthetics, teamwork. You also talked about kind of your inner circle. You talked about your sister, but can you just talk a little bit about who's in your inner circle today, other than your sister, kind of on your working team? And then secondly, as you talk about like values, aesthetics, teamwork, as you guys go out and hire, how do you make sure that you're getting the right people on your team?
Well, I hope they have some background of skating or understand skate culture, because that's always hard to teach on the fly. But even so, it's just more someone that's interested in this sort of avant-garde industry. I have a team of people. I mean, my core group is Jamie, who is an artist, and he knows exactly my aesthetics and what I'm looking for. So if something comes to our office that is supposed to represent my name or Birdhouse, my company, he knows right away if it's something that I'll even want to look at. And so I have these filters in place that I'm not bogged down with all kinds of things coming at me. And then I have someone that does my scheduling, and he knows, he understands sort of the cadence of my travel and what would work and what wouldn't work. And so he can tell someone, well, this won't work before it gets to me. And I'm thankful for that, just because my time is spread so thin already.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty tight crew.
That's awesome. One question just around kind of balancing growth of your business versus making sure you stay on brand. You mentioned kind of the Gene story, but just how do you balance those two things? I'm sure people are constantly trying to pitch you ideas. I remember being in New York a few weeks ago, and everybody's up there trying to get you to look at the next juice drink or their next idea. How do you kind of filter those things out and make sure that you don't get distracted?
It's more on intuition. It's if something I feel like would connect or that would have synergy with what we do in skateboarding. That's usually it's usually not hard. Like it's sometimes it'd be a stretch. Like, how does this actually connect to what you do? And if that seems too forced to me, I'm not really interested in it. But in the day and age of social media, I've found that it's been fun to figure out ways to promote other things, especially with products or companies that I'm already interested in.
Awesome. I'm going to go to the crowd here for a quick question. The craziest place that you've ever skated, or most unique place?
The craziest. I don't know if it's crazy, but in 2009, I was invited to the White House for a Father's Day event, and I had my skateboard with me, and realized very quickly that I could just skate through the halls of the White House. And so I was with a couple of other professional athletes, NBA players, and other sort of prominent figures that were it was sort of to promote fatherhood and being present as a father. And so I was with, they provide you an escort, mostly a security to be with you. And I said, will you take a photo of me skating? And he's like, no. And so I handed it to one of the NBA guys, and they were excited to do it. And I just skated through the hall and got a photo of it. And there was some backlash just because people thought somehow I was disrespecting the people's house. But they invited me there as a skateboarder. What do they expect?
Another one from the crowd. This is a good one. How many bones have you broken in your career?
I get that question a lot. I've only actually broken 2 bones officially. I fractured my thumb and my rib and my skull, but I broke my elbow at a commercial shoot, and I broke my pelvis shooting for a Jackass, of course.
We're in a room full of accountants, and obviously you talked about Sandy being a really key part of your team. As you'd also talked about her kind of being this filter as well, and kind of being the governor on any crazy ideas. But do you have examples where you've really believed in something and you've been able to sell her on something that maybe didn't make initial financial sense?
Yeah, cryptocurrency. Yeah, but mostly with investing. I've done a lot of different investments over the years, and a lot of times she at first was hesitant just because I was a little out of my league, but it were things that I really did believe in, like Blue Bottle Coffee, DocuSign, and a few others. And so she has learned to trust me more with my instincts, but it doesn't always work. Juicero. Moment of silence for Juicero. Okay.
So another question from the crowd. You're involved in various charities. What made you decide to give back in that specific way?
The catalyst for me was seeing the rise of skateboarding in the early 2000s and the lack of facilities, because so many kids were choosing to skate, especially in more impoverished areas, and they had no support system. And they found something they truly loved, an activity, something that's healthy, something that builds their self-confidence, and basically are told that they can't do it anywhere. And so I started my foundation in 2002 as a reaction to that, to try to help people, to give them resources to get skate parks built in their areas, and to get funding. The seed money came from my appearance on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I got up to the $125,000 question, and that was actually the start of the foundation.
Wow, that's awesome.
My brother knew the answer. I called him. I didn't know the answer.
Somebody in the crowd wants to know if you've ever skated the Vegas Strip.
Yes, I've skated on the Vegas Strip before. It's pretty lawless out there. There are not a lot of cops telling you to stop skating. You could be skating with a margarita in your hand. They wouldn't care.
Another one from the crowd. What qualities do you look for when choosing trusted advisors for your business?
I think, transparency, firstly. Someone that's not trying to pull a scam, not just for themselves, but for the business. I very much want our businesses to run on the level and to play by the rules and to pay our taxes. I'm so thankful for our success. I don't ever want to try to be shady in that way. And someone that's efficient and supportive.
Awesome. Your team, we talk about your team helping you be more productive, and you talked about you've learned that you really need to go out and focus on the things that you're really good at. Can you just talk a little bit about how you surround yourself with people that have really good complementary skills to what you bring to the table?
Sure. Well, my best example is my art director, who I could just sort of throw an idea at him, something very vague, and he'll make it into something that has the aesthetics of our brand, that I feel like is edgy, that caters to skateboarders. and we work pretty well. You know, there's a synergy you get with the people you work with, and if that doesn't work right away, you know that you got to cut it off.
Yeah.
But for sure, my crew and even on video stuff. Luckily, not luckily, it was by design, my video crew are all skaters. And so when we go to do skate videos, I know that they're going to choose the best shots. They're going to make the best edit. I don't have to give them a crash course on why you can't use this angle or why that trick looks terrible.
Awesome. Question from the audience again, just around your legacy and really what you want your legacy to be in skating and as a business owner.
I don't like to think too deeply about that stuff just because I feel like then I'm somehow leaving it. I would like my legacy to be someone that was an innovative skateboarder above all else. I mean, I think that my pride is really in my skating prowess, and I'm sure that people would associate me with someone who brought skateboarding more into the mainstream through video games, through X Games, and things like that. But at its core, I want people to think of me as an innovative skater.
Awesome. So you talked about kind of skating, you leveraged video games. As you look out into the future, kind of skating and technology and the symbiosis of those two, where do you see the technology and skating going in the future?
Well, I think technology has opened up skating to a much bigger audience, and it makes it less important to your geography. So when you used to, in the 80s, early 90s, you had to live in California to make it as a skateboarder. That's where all the industry was, the magazines, the companies. And if you had some sense of talent, you know, if you were from Kansas or from New York even, you kind of had to move to California to play the game. Nowadays, with the advent of social media and technology, you can be from anywhere and have a huge YouTube channel. And I love that. And you know, with the coming of the Olympics, skateboarding will be in the Olympics in 2020. We're going to see skateboarding in the most unlikely places. And that's exciting to me. I think that's the silver lining of sort of fitting into the Olympic format, because I've always said that I think that the Olympics needs our cool factor more than we need their validation. I still believe that.
Talk a little bit about your followership, because I think you have international followers, right? Is there a lot in Asia? And,
yeah, a lot of Latin America, yeah.
A lot of Latin America as well? All right, cool.
I credit my success in Latin America a lot to the video game, but mostly to The Simpsons. Because I was on The Simpsons, and I swear every time that I go to Argentina, Chile, or Brazil, they all quote The Simpsons to me in Spanish. It's fascinating.
Another question for you, just on a small business that you really admire, and anything that you maybe were able to take from that small business and inject it, kind of a best demonstrated practice into what you do on a daily basis.
Wow. Well, my best example is I got in very early investing to Blue Bottle Coffee, which was just a very niche coffee shop in San Francisco. And I used to go there because I loved it, and I just by coincidence had a friend that was at Google Ventures, and he said, hey, we're going to actually invest in it, and I got in early. But the team they put together is so streamlined and understands how to grow something very quickly, how to scale it. And the two people I'm thinking of, Tony Conrad and Brian Meehan, both are very successful in other ways too. But seeing them through that process and seeing how much they've grown it in the last, 8-9 years that we've been involved, has been amazing. And that's inspiring to me. It's huge now. It's bigger than Birdhouse will ever be, obviously. But to see how it worked. I don't know if we'd ever be able to scale a skateboard company that big, but I hope so.
So I think we have time for a couple more questions. One, with Father's Day coming up, folks are asking, just you have a son that's a professional skater, and just what have you done to really help him in his career?
Well, I like to think that my son Riley, he's 25 actually, but I like to think that I've led by example of sort of how to handle yourself out there in public and being a professional skateboarder and rising to the occasion. I think the misnomer about skating is that, you know, it's for slacker kids and they wake up late and they smoke weed and they skate when they want to. And if you are a professional skateboarder, it's a job. And you got to rise, like, you know, you're on tour. Maybe you're not feeling great. Maybe the skate park's terrible, but you're expected to perform. And I think he's seen me do that through all the years. Beyond that, I've helped him to guide sort of his sponsorships and trying to be more effective with his focus. Instead of taking every single opportunity, just taking fewer ones that are more lucrative.
Someone here wants to know what your worst management decision ever was, and what did you learn from it?
What did I learn? Well, I put someone in charge of the Birdhouse brand that I already had questions about, and ended up finding out that he was selling a lot of stuff out of the back door for his own profit. And then he tried to sue me when we started our clothing line, saying that he was supposed to be involved in it, which he wasn't. And so I regret ever agreeing to hire him in the first place, but I already had a feeling about him.
Have accidents ever discouraged you, and how did you pick yourself up from failure? Accidents put me in check. They don't discourage me, but they definitely give me a sense of reality and my mortality. For instance, when I broke my pelvis, that I was already close to 40 at the time, and I thought, this is it. I'm done. I just broke the biggest bone in my body, and at an age when you probably won't recover from that. But I did make it my mission to start skating again. And it wasn't that I was trying to be relevant or I was trying to be a pro again. I just knew that skating was in my blood and I had to get back out there to do it. It took me about a year to really get my confidence back and to get my skating in order. But it taught me a valuable lesson that I love skating above all else, above finances, above being celebrity. I just want to keep skating, and it was a good reality check. But for sure, I was sitting in the hospital thinking, it's probably, this might be over. I might have to give it up. So I think we have time for one last question. Somebody asking around, obviously your proven ability to be an entrepreneur, and just ways and advice for people to bring more innovation to their daily work. How would you educate us on innovation and instilling innovation in the culture?
I think continually looking for challenges and embracing challenges and embracing adversity is such a huge lesson. If you have a stumbling block, or if there's something that looks like it's sort of gonna be a negative influence on your business, you have to embrace that and figure out how to get around it instead of seeing it as just the end. And I think that I've learned that through my years of skating and through my years of trying tricks where it's like, this seems impossible, but maybe if there's a little bit tweak, or when I do try a trick, and I'm getting super nerdy about skate tricks now, but when I do try a trick and it fails but turns into something else by accident, that is usually the best moments for me, the most innovative. And I feel like that you could use that in business as well. If you try something and mistakenly it goes a different direction, but you think, wait a second, if we follow this path, maybe that will be more successful.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony, again for your time today, your wisdom.
Thank you very much.
And most importantly, your partnership. You've been an absolutely fantastic partner for the Chase Inc. business.
Oh, it's been great. It gives me an excuse to wear a suit.
And thanks to you all. 7 a.m. wake-up call. We really appreciate this huge audience coming today to hear us and hear our session. Just a quick call out. Tony will be at around 10:15 at the Chase Inc. booth if you want to fly by and get some photos with Tony. So
that's
thank
the
you.
after party.
So thank you guys again, and thanks to all the watchers on the internet as well. Have a great rest of your day.